if not producing animal protein through this current system that we've just walked through, what's the alternative? I know that you are very optimistic about precision fermentation and using microbes to create protein.
Sure. So, and as you could probably tell from the beginning of the interview, I've become quite obsessed by microbes. They are extraordinary. I mean, they've got these incredible capacities, which we're only just beginning to understand. And for 12,000 years or so, we've been concentrating on breeding multicellular organisms, animals and plants, and we've pretty well pushed them to the limit and beyond. You know, if you think of how pigs and chickens are now being treated beyond the limit of what they can take, it's just totally horrible. And yet we've scarcely explored the potential of microorganisms at all. And you can grow them with massively smaller environmental impacts, with none of the animal suffering that's being caused by the current system, and anywhere on Earth, so that, you know, countries which are now totally dependent on importing food from the other side of the world because they don't have enough fertile land or water of their own, they could produce their own food if we were growing microbes. And microbes have this tremendous capacity to feed people. We can produce exactly the protein profiles that we want, healthily, much more cheaply. And we're only just beginning to get to grips with the potential of what could be a shift as important as the agricultural revolution. And there is hope here. And I think there's a real potential for a techno-ethical shift of the kind that we were talking about before with the printing press and modern contraceptive technologies.
How do you see the adoption of that from the kind of mainstream market? I can imagine some pushback, and I think I've even read comments on the socials where people say, that's not natural, that's Frankenfood, that's going to come out of a factory.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Because we're perfectly complacent about the idea of killing 76 billion animals a year to feed ourselves. 76 billion. You know, and these huge, monstrous factories in which thousands of pigs or tens of thousands of chickens are kept, or these massive milking parlours in which hundreds and hundreds of dairy cows are lined up. And that's just natural. That's fine. That's completely natural. And then you see a brewery in which microbes are being bred, and you say, "Oh, that's horrible. That's totally unnatural." So what's the difference? The difference is all positive. Everything about the second situation is better than the first situation. And it's no more unnatural than what we're doing to the pigs and chickens, or for that matter, in the way that we grow wheat or corn. Naturalness isn't an issue here. It doesn't come into it because it's all human-made situations, but one has far lower impacts than the other. And so we should be looking at the one with the lower impacts.
Is that the key, you think, to this piece of freeing up land to rewild a lot of land?
It's a major part of it. I mean, we still obviously need to produce arable crops, grain. We need to produce fruit and vegetables. In fact, we ought to be eating far more fruit and veg than we are. And so we need revolutions in the way those are produced as well. And there's some very interesting possibilities that I explore in the book. But the biggest shift of all comes from getting out of livestock. There are two things we need to do to prevent the collapse of Earth systems. One is to leave fossil fuels in the ground. The other is to stop farming animals. And stopping farming animals is probably an even more important task than leaving fossil fuels in the ground, because of the way that livestock farming hits every single Earth system. And so, if we can use the new technologies to substitute for animal products and get out of animal products very quickly, that could be the best hope there is for life on Earth.